What if you worked your entire life to give someone the world and came back to find out you'd destroyed it instead? That question haunted me the moment I heard this story. And I need you to sit with that for a second, because what you're about to hear isn't just a love story. It's a gut punch. It's a mirror. It's a reminder of what really matters before it's too late. So buckle up, because this one is going to stay with you. Picture this. A man steps off a private flight, dressed in a suit that costs more than most people's rent, riding through rain-soaked Manhattan streets in a black luxury car. 5 years abroad. 5 years of building something worth billions. By every measure society gives us, this man had made it. His name was Daniel Mercer. And he was coming home, but home wasn't the penthouse suite or the boardroom. Home was a woman named Elise, his wife. The person he'd kissed goodbye outside their Brooklyn apartment 5 years earlier, whispering, "I'll be back soon. This is for us." She had smiled and said, "I'll be here." Now, as Daniel's car rolled through the wet streets, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. Elise's phone had been disconnected for months. His last real conversation with her felt like a lifetime ago. And then, 3 months before his return, he'd reached out to her closest friend, Rachel. Rachel's response had stopped him cold. "Daniel, you need to come home, now. She's not the same." When he pressed for more, Rachel just broke down crying and ended the call. So there he was, the most powerful he'd ever been in his career, completely powerless against the dread building in his chest. He had his driver take him straight to their old apartment building in Brooklyn. When he stepped out and looked up at the place, it seemed smaller than he remembered. Older, like it had given up trying. He buzzed apartment 4B. Nothing. Again. Nothing. An older woman passing by with groceries paused. "You looking for someone?" "Dear?" "Elise Mercer. 4B. The woman's face did that thing faces do when someone's about to deliver news they don't want to give. Her eyes dropped. Her voice softened. "She doesn't live here anymore. Left about 3 years back. The landlord said she couldn't keep up with rent. One day her things were gone." Daniel felt like the ground had shifted under his feet. "That's not possible. I sent her money every month. $15,000 every single month." The woman shook her head slowly. "All I know is she looked thin, exhausted, and then she was just gone." He pulled out his phone. Transaction after transaction, all confirmed, all delivered, to account ending in 4782 every month for 5 years. So where had it gone? He called Rachel immediately, hands trembling. "Where is she? Tell me right now." A long silence, then barely a whisper. "Go to 5th Avenue, near 34th Street. I can't say it, Daniel. Just go." The 20-minute drive felt like 20 years. Daniel sat rigid in the back seat, his mind cycling through every terrible possibility. When they reached the intersection, he told his driver to slow down. His eyes moved over the crowded sidewalk. Street vendors, tourists, commuters rushing past, with their heads down, earbuds in, completely insulated from the world around them. And then, his blood went cold. A woman, sitting on a flattened cardboard box near the curb, thin frame, torn jacket, a paper cup in front of her and a handwritten sign resting against her knees. Her hair hung forward, shielding her face. But Daniel knew that posture. He knew the way those shoulders curved inward. He knew her. Stop the car. He was out before it fully stopped, walking through puddles in shoes that cost $1,000 toward a woman who couldn't pay rent. He was 5 feet away when a passing businessman tossed $1 into her cup. She looked up to say, "Thank you," and their eyes met. Elise. Her face had changed. It was thinner, sharper, like life had carved away everything soft. Her lips were cracked. Dark circles framed those brown eyes he'd fallen in love with a decade ago. But those eyes, they were still hers. And they went wide with shock. Daniel, he couldn't speak, couldn't move. A whole speech he'd been rehearsing for months evaporated on the spot. She scrambled to her feet. No, no, you can't see me like this, you can't. Elise. He reached for her arm gently. She yanked away. Don't, please, just go. I'm not going anywhere. Your husband, she said and laughed, a short, hollow sound that had nothing joyful in it. My husband left 5 years ago and never came back. I sent money, Daniel said. Every single month. She stopped, turned slowly. What money, Daniel? What are you talking about? After you left, the transfers stopped. After 2 months, 3 months, I called you. You never picked up. I left voicemails. Nothing. I thought... Her voice broke. I thought you'd just moved on. That's impossible. I never stopped sending. I sold everything. Her voice cut through his like a blade. My jewelry, the furniture. Piece by piece, I sold everything we owned trying to keep the lights on. I called your office. They told me you were too important to be interrupted. Tears were streaming freely. Now, I lost the apartment. I got sick, pneumonia, 2 months in the hospital. When I got out, I had no money, no home, and apparently no husband. Daniel felt the world tilt. Elise, I swear, don't. She held up a hand. I've spent 3 years on these streets asking myself what I did wrong. 3 years cold and hungry and invisible. Don't stand there in your designer suit and tell me you didn't know. He dropped to his knees right there on the sidewalk. People streamed past. He didn't care. I failed you, he said. I know I failed you. Please, let me fix it. Let me try. She looked down at him, and for a moment something flickered across her face. Grief, disbelief, exhaustion. Then she said the words that shattered him completely. There's something else you need to know. He looked up. 4 years ago, I was pregnant. Her voice had gone very quiet. I tried to reach you. I called, texted, emailed. I needed you, and you were just gone. She pressed her lips together. I lost the baby at 5 months. I was alone in the emergency room, no husband, no family. Just doctors telling me our daughter didn't make it. Daniel couldn't breathe. I named her Lily, Elise whispered. Lily Mercer. I buried her with the last money I had. He fell apart. Right there in the rain, kneeling on the sidewalk, this man, who had closed billion-dollar deals across 3 continents, fell completely apart. And Elise, broken, hungry, homeless Elise, was the one who knelt beside him and said, You don't get to take the easy way out. If you want to fix this, you live with it, you carry it, and you figure out how to be human again. He looked into her eyes, past the pain and the damage and the years of suffering. He saw something still alive in there, small, fragile, but present. Come home with me, he said. No expectations, no pressure, just let me take care of you, please. She looked at her cardboard, her cup, her cracked shoes, then back at him, still on his knees in a puddle. Okay, she whispered. But I need you to understand something. The woman you married is gone. I'm not her anymore. I'm harder. I don't trust easily. I have nightmares. I have scars you can't see. If you want me back, you're getting someone new. I'll take whatever you can give me, Daniel said, standing. As long as you give me the chance. He took off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. He picked up her sign. You won't need this anymore. But even as they walked to the car, a question kept gnawing at him. If he'd been sending money every month for 5 years, where had it gone? Back at his hotel, Daniel called his head of security. Within hours, he had answers that made him sick. The account he'd been sending money to, ending in 4782, wasn't Elise's. Her account ended in 4792. 1 digit off, and the account receiving his money? It belonged to his personal assistant, a woman named Clara, who'd worked for him for 7 years. Nearly $1 million funneled into her account over 5 years, but the theft was only part of it. Clara had also bribed people in his company to block Elise's calls. She had intercepted his emails, hundreds of love letters he'd written to his wife late at night in Shanghai, never seen. She had canceled Elise's health insurance, redirected his messages, and when Elise had flown to Shanghai 2 years ago with her last dollar to find her husband, Clara had met her in the lobby, handed her $500, and told her Daniel had specifically requested that family matters not interrupt his work. Elise had gone home believing her husband had discarded her. Why? Because Clara was in love with Daniel. Had been for years. She'd convinced herself that if Elise disappeared from the picture, eventually he would see her. The next morning, Daniel walked into his office and had Clara arrested. She screamed as the officers took her. "She'll never love you again. You'll never get back what you lost." Daniel sat down in his chair, staring at the wall. She wasn't wrong that damage had been done, but she was wrong about one thing. Elise was alive. They were both alive, and that was enough to start. Recovery doesn't happen overnight. Anyone who's been through real trauma will tell you that. Daniel bought a brownstone in Brooklyn, quiet, with a garden, away from the skyline and the boardrooms. Elise had her own room upstairs. He slept downstairs. They moved through the house like careful strangers at first, polite at breakfast, saying goodnight from opposite ends of the hallway. Elise started therapy 3 times a week with a trauma specialist. Daniel started his own sessions because, her therapist told him plainly, you can't help her heal if you haven't looked at yourself yet. One Saturday morning, Daniel found Elise in the garden planting roses. She looked healthier, color in her cheeks, steadier on her feet. But her eyes still carried something heavy. "What kind are those?" he asked, bringing 2 coffees over. "New Dawn roses," she said, accepting the cup. "They're survivors. They can bloom in almost any condition, even after harsh winters." He sat down. "Like you." Her smile faded slightly. "Some days I'm not sure I'm surviving, Daniel. Some days I think I'm just existing." "That still counts," he said. She looked at him carefully. "My therapist says I need to stop holding in the anger. She says I need to say it out loud." She paused. "Can you actually handle that?" "Try me." And she did. She told him what it felt like to be invisible, to stand on a corner in winter while hundreds of people walked past without a glance, to be hungry for days at a time, to wonder what she had done to deserve being abandoned by the one person who was supposed to choose her every single day. She told him that some mornings she woke up and wished she'd never met him, that some evenings she looked at the beautiful house and thought about cardboard. He didn't look away, he didn't defend himself, he just listened. "Why are you still here?" she finally asked. "You have everything. You could walk away and find someone who isn't broken." "Because I don't want someone who isn't broken," he said quietly. "I want my wife, even if she never forgives me, even if we never get back to what we were. I want to be wherever you are." The breakthrough came on a Tuesday in December, first snow of the season. Daniel was in the kitchen when he heard the back door open. He looked out to see Elise standing in the garden in her bare feet, arms stretched out, face tilted up toward the falling snow. He grabbed a blanket and went outside. "You're going to freeze." "I'm feeling it," she said, not moving. "For 3 years I felt nothing. I went numb just to survive, but right now I feel the cold on my face, the snow. I feel alive, Daniel." He draped the blanket over her shoulders. After a moment, she turned to him. "I want to go visit Lily. Will you come?" They drove to the cemetery in silence. When they reached the small headstone, Elise knelt and brushed the snow away. She talked to her daughter about pain, about anger, About a therapist named Dr. Morrison, who kept telling her that holding on to rage doesn't honor the people we've lost. It only chains us to our worst moments. Then she looked up at Daniel. "I forgive you," she said. "Not because you've earned it, but because I deserve peace. I deserve to stop dragging this weight around. I can't keep letting what happened to me define every single day I have left." He shook his head. "You don't have to. I know I don't have to. That's why I'm choosing to." She stood. "I'm not saying we go back to what we were. I'm saying I'm willing to try for something new, something that actually works this time." He pulled her into his arms. For the first time in 6 months, she didn't pull away. She held on. A year later, Elise was painting in the garden. She sold her work online now, had even shown in a local gallery. She'd built something on her own terms, and watching her do it was the most beautiful thing Daniel had ever seen. "What are you painting?" he asked, bringing lemonade. She smiled. "You, actually." He looked at the canvas. A man in a garden, surrounded by roses, looking lost but hopeful, and in the background a second figure stepping out of shadow. "That's me," she said, touching the emerging shape with the tip of her brush. Coming back to life. He wrapped his arms around her from behind. She leaned back into him. They stayed, like that for a long time. Then he pulled out a small box. She opened it to find a key. "What is this?" "We're opening a shelter downtown. 24 beds, full kitchen, job training, therapy services. Everything someone needs to start over." He paused. "I want you to run it." Her eyes filled. "Daniel, you know what those people need in a way I never could. You've lived it. You can speak their language." She laughed through her tears. "Yes, absolutely yes." They kissed. A real one, full of everything they'd survived to get there. 2 years after Daniel found Elise on that sidewalk, they stood together at the ribbon cutting of Lily's house. The mayor was there, news cameras too. But the only thing that mattered to either of them were the 24 people moving in that day. 24 souls who had been sleeping rough, counting days, wondering if anyone would ever see them. Elise stood at the podium and said, "I know what it's like to have nothing. I've been exactly where you are. I've felt that particular kind of hopelessness that makes you wonder if you're real anymore. I'm here to tell you, you are real. You matter. And we are going to help you find your way back." After the ceremony, a young woman approached her, maybe 25, with the hollow eyes of someone who'd been surviving on fumes. "Thank you," the woman whispered. "I was about to give up." Elise pulled her into a hug. "You don't have to give up. Not today. You're safe now." That evening, they visited Lily's grave together like they did every week. They brought flowers. They brought news. "We opened the house today, baby," Elise said softly, kneeling in the grass. "We named it after you, because the briefest life can still change everything." Daniel knelt beside her. "I'm taking care of your mom now, the way I always should have. I'm showing up. I'm staying. That's my promise to you." As they stood to leave, Elise slipped her hand into his. It was such a small thing, but it meant everything. It meant trust, rebuilt from rubble. It meant choosing each other, not when it was easy, but especially when it wasn't. "Ready to go home?" Daniel asked. She smiled. "Yeah, let's go home." You know what this story really comes down to? It's not about money. It's not even about betrayal. It's about this. The people who love you most don't need your success. They need your presence. They need you to pick up the phone, to come home for dinner, to say, "You matter more than the deal." Real wealth isn't in the bank. It's in the room. It's in the garden. It's in the hand that reaches for yours in the dark. If this story hit you somewhere real today, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that like button. It genuinely helps more people find stories like this one. And subscribe if you're new here, because we have more stories coming that will stick with you long after you close the app. Drop a comment and tell me, what's the one lesson from Daniel and Elise's story that you're carrying with you today? I read every single one. It's never too late to come home to what matters most. I'll see you in the next one.